Good evening, everyone. Welcome to League of Leaders, our Tuesday segment, Hot Topic Tuesday. We have Al Fragnoli and special guest Justin Marckel tonight. Gentlemen, we got some good topics. Want to start off with the NCAA tournament. Uh, Looks like it's going to be an awesome week after Selection Sunday, one of my favorite times of the year. I just wanted to talk about the tournament itself. Who do you have as your picks this year? Any sleeper picks? Any lower seeds that you have advancing deep in the tourney? And who do you ultimately have in the Final Four? Al, I'm going to kick it to you.
All right, my favorite time of the year, March Madness. We didn't have it last year, so I'm excited to have it back with us this year. So, Zach, you asked a couple questions there. So you say who are the lower seeds that I think have a chance to advance? It's hard to say. I do think that this year is going to be pretty wide open with a lot of upsets because when you think about it, you're going to have not many fans in those arenas. So I think that this creates a little bit of a stress-free environment for some of those teams. So I think we might see some more upsets than we normally do. So anyway, with that being said, some of the lower seeds that I like LSU as a number 8 seed. I've watched a lot of SEC basketball, a lot of Big Ten basketball. I like LSU. They have a great offense. I think they can put up points really quick. And to me, the tournament is all about 3-point shooting, the teams that get hot offensively and can nail threes, and the teams that are able to play good defense, they typically advance. Now, that's the one thing that I think LSU does struggle with at times is defense. They don't look really good. They look like NBA teams at times, which is not a positive when you talk defense in the NBA. But if Michigan does not have Isaiah Livers, we're assuming they advance to the second round. I think LSU is primed to make an upset here in a 1-versus-8 matchup. And if they advance to the next round of the Sweet 16, I think that they knock off Florida State, go to the Elite Eight. And then, in my opinion, you're looking at an LSU Alabama matchup in the Elite Eight. And we just saw the SEC championship this weekend. One of the best games I've seen in a long time. That could very well go to LSU, and you win that, you're in the Final Four. I don't think they beat Gonzaga or anything like that. But I do think that LSU has an opportunity to potentially go to the Final Four. Texas Tech at a 6 seed. I really like Texas Tech. They've been there in the past. They've got a great coach. They've got the experience. I like them. Oklahoma State as a 4 seed as well creates some interest for me. The only thing with them is they're a young team, and a lot of times teams that are young don't have a lot of experience, don't typically do well in the tournament. But I think that they're talented, and if they play loose and with confidence, they have the potential to go deep. When we look at a first-round potential upset, I think I'm very confident saying that Winthrop as a 12 seed in the classic 5 versus 12 matchup is going to beat Villanova. Villanova's struggled lately. They got some injuries. So I think that Winthrop might win that potential game right there. And then I look at Colgate as well at a 14. That would be a huge upset, but I think Colgate can run the floor. They have a great offense. I look at Colgate to potentially knock off Arkansas. So that's what I think with some of the lower seeds and some of the sleepers that might advance deep in the tournament. I really like LSU a lot. I like Texas Tech overall. The other thing that you asked, Zach, Final Four. Gonzaga for sure. Illinois, love them. I think they're going to meet in the title game. I ultimately give the slight edge to Gonzaga, although I think that would be a classic championship game. I like Ohio State to knock off Baylor in the South region. I'm going to pick Michigan. I know I love LSU. I'm going to pick Michigan, and the reason I'm picking Michigan, this is assuming that Isaiah Livers can come back and be a factor. If not, that's totally irrelevant. If he's unable to come back healthy, I like LSU or Alabama. So for the moment, I'm going to say Livers comes back healthy. We're going to put Michigan there in the Final Four, but that's a big if. I think that they've got the toughest road ahead of them as a 1 seed. So those are my thoughts right there. Justin, your thoughts?
Man, first of all, you are right on the money, Al. This is the best time of the year. March Madness, there's just nothing better. I don't know about you guys, but here in North Carolina, the weather's been great the last few days. It's just a great time of year. So I'm excited. I'm going to kind of go the opposite route and start with my Final Four. And it's funny, we talked about this a few weeks ago, guys, and and so I've kept a lot of a couple of the same that I said. The first Final Four matchup I have is Gonzaga against Florida State. Al, I know you said you've got Florida State losing, but they're just a tough out. They're a tough matchup. They can throw like 9 or 10 guys out there. Leonard Hamilton, it just seems the last few years they're just playing at a really high level. They've got a great freshman in Scotty Barnes who has some moxie. He's hit some big time shots down the stretch in some games. And I think they're dangerous. I think they knock off Michigan. I do think Michigan gets past LSU, Al, and gets into the round of 16, but Florida State just gonna be too tough and they're too deep. I don't think Isaiah Livers comes back for Michigan, and I think that plays a big factor. And unfortunately, I see Michigan being the first 1 seed eliminated. On the other side of it, I've got Baylor against Illinois. It's not too risky, 2 number 1 seeds going at it against each other. With Baylor, I see in my bracket a very, very clear path to the Final Four. I think their toughest matchup might be in the second round. They potentially face North Carolina. And just a quick stat I found today, Roy Williams is 29-0 all time in round 1, including 15-0 at UNC. So if there is any gamblers out there that are looking for a first round lock, check out UNC over Wisconsin. Roy Williams undefeated in the first round. But I think Baylor gets past them in the second. And then I also have Winthrop. I've got them going a couple rounds actually until they meet Baylor. And so then I think the tough matchup there is Baylor against Ohio State. And Ohio State has played well down the stretch, but Baylor just comes at you and is so explosive. And that's why I think the matchup against Illinois in the Final Four is going to be that would be a fantastic game. I'd love to see that matchup. Ultimately, I have Gonzaga versus Illinois, and I have Gonzaga winning that game. Just tough to bet against the Zags. They played so well. They're so fast. They just go up and down the court, and they got like all 5 of their starters could put up 20 points on any given night. So they're a dangerous team. Illinois has been hot, but I don't see anyone beating Gonzaga. I touched real quick on Winthrop. I think they win a couple games. Another team that I had, and not quite as lower ranked, is San Diego State. They're a 6 seed, but I have them knocking off West Virginia and then knocking off Houston to get into the Elite 8. They're just strong. They're a strong team. They're coming into the tournament. I think I looked at this earlier. I think they've won 14 in a row heading into the tournament. So they're on fire. They're playing really well. So look for San Diego State out of the Midwest region as one of my upset specials. Zach, what about you?
Well, gentlemen, you're not going too far from the 1s and 2s in your Final Four. So I think the best teams in the bracket are your Gonzaga, your Baylor, your Michigan, and your Illinois. But for my Final Four, Al, I'm going to go with you. I think there's going to be upsets. I think the crowd's going to be a factor. I think just the season has been unconventional, so why not have a few upsets? So I'd like to see. I think the East is probably where you're going to have your biggest chance of upsets. You got the injury to Livers that could hurt Michigan, but they do have depth on the bench, so we'll see how that affects them. But I think you have a strong number 5 seed in Colorado and a strong number 4 seed in Florida State. So I think coming out of that bracket, you could easily see Florida State or Colorado advancing out of the winning the first round, playing against each other in the second round, and whoever wins that game, I think either team has an opportunity to beat Michigan and take them down. So Justin, to your point, I think Michigan may be the first number 1 seed out of the tournament. Coming out of the East, I'm not going to go 1s and 2s. I really think Florida State is a 3-point shooting team. I think that they shoot it well, and when they do, they win. So I think that's going to carry him so far, but I'm going to go with my new home team out of the East, and that's Colorado. So why not go with them this year? In the Midwest, Illinois is the strong team. I think they're going to be the team to beat, but I do not have San Diego State beating West Virginia. I do have San Diego State University coming out of the first round and going against West Virginia, but I think West Virginia heads to the Final Four. So we got Colorado, West Virginia in the South. Again, probably Baylor the stronger team, but I think Ohio State, and then the Zags at 26-0, undefeated. I don't know if they can go the whole tourney. So I'm going to go ahead and pick number 3, Kansas, out of the West. So I'm going all number ones do not make it to the Final Four in this crazy 2020, 2021 year.
So Zach, really quick to wrap it up, that would be absolute chaos right there if that were to happen. I think none of it happens, by the way, just to let you know. Maybe the only thing is that we can agree upon, all of us, is that Michigan probably is the number 1 seed, the first number 1 seed. That's definitely going to get knocked off. I hate to say that, but I think that they get knocked off. And there's a good chance, like I said, they get knocked off early. Justin, to your point, Florida State is a strong team. And I love the East because I think the most chaos out of all these regions is going to come from the East. I like LSU. I like Florida State. I even like Georgetown a little bit. I mean, what a job Patrick Ewing has done in Georgetown. That's going to be fantastic to see what they do in the coming years. I like Texas too. None of us mentioned Texas, but they play some good basketball. So I really can see anybody coming out of that East region. And I think that's going to be great. The only team that I really don't like with no chance coming out of that region is Colorado. I mean, really. So, Zach, it took you no time before moving out to Colorado before you jumped on that bandwagon. But it's going to be a fun tournament, that's for sure.
And chaos is fun. Chaos is fun when it comes to the madness of March.
Absolutely.
We can all agree on that, you guys. This is the best. This is the best time of the year. And interesting, as we're talking about these two teams, or talking about all these teams, 2 teams we don't even mention, 2 blue bloods, Duke and Kentucky. Neither one in the tournament. They're 2 strong tournament, 2 strong teams. I'm getting tongue tied. They're 2 strong tournament teams who are watching from home this year. However, Michigan State keeps their streak alive. They've made the tournament every year since 1997. So let's talk about them for a couple minutes. Were they deserving of a bid? Let's start there. And then our thoughts on Tom Izzo. Is his time running out at MSU? And just kind of your thoughts on where he ranks when we talk about the best coaches ever. So, Zach, we'll start with you on that one.
Yeah, so I think Michigan State this year may have gotten in due to their reputation. I do believe that this season. But, we talk about great coaches, teams who win, and Michigan State has been that under Tom Izzo since he started. Numerous Final Four appearances. Unfortunately, only 2 finals appearances, I believe, when he's 1-1. So since the start, I've dating back to 95, I think he started. Only 2 finals championships, but he seems to do well during March Madness. So, where does he rank in college coaches or greatest coaches? I think he ranks pretty high. I know statistically it looks pretty well on paper, but it's hard to say exactly where I feel he fits in because he doesn't have those multiple championships, and he's only been there twice in 25 plus years. So I think. Final Four appearances are great, but you got to get to the finals. And I think he's a great coach for getting them, to 8 Final Fours or whatever it was, or whatever it is. But I think to be one of the greats, you got to win multiple championships. And as far as his time, his age could be a factor. But it's if he doesn't continue to win or start winning, I don't think they make it out of the first round this year. And I think our statistics show that the last 10 years have been a little bit more of a struggle than his previous 15. So I think we may be on the very end of the Tom Izzo era at Michigan State. But I still think he's a great coach. I just don't know if he's one of the greatest. How about you, Al?
Yeah, so I love this question. This is a great debate. Zach, I think you hit on a couple of really key points and everything there. When I look at Tom Izzo, first of all, we have a lot of listeners that obviously live in the state of Michigan here and follow us, and a lot of Michigan State supporters. So I'm curious to hear some of their thoughts, some of the alumni, and what their thoughts are on this. I don't think there's any arguing what Tom Izzo has meant to college basketball and what he's meant to Michigan State University. I think when it's all said and done, he's definitely a Hall of Fame coach. I think we already know that. I think he's probably got to be factored into top 10, top 15 all time. Top 15 for sure, I think is 100% a safe bet. College basketball coaches of all time. There's only 4 coaches that have more Final Four appearances than him, which is nuts, really. I mean, so there's not a lot. He's been to 8 Final Fours, as you mentioned, since 1995, since he's been the head coach there. He's got 1 championship under his belt and another loss. I think he does a great job at developing talent. When somebody comes in as a freshman, by the time they're a junior or senior, they can develop into a pretty good basketball prospect, a player, and some of these guys ultimately end up in the NBA. And I think that's because of his strong development once they arrive in East Lansing there. I feel like he could potentially have more titles under his belt. That, obviously it's very hard to win a championship, but he's had some good teams in the last couple of years. I think we can all agree upon that, have had some early exits from tournament play. I do think that his time, he's got maybe another couple years at most. He's 66 years old. And with the performance the last couple of years, I do think that his time might be running out. He's not going to get fired or anything like that. He's a legend. He's going to be leaving on his own time, but I do think that that's probably dwindling. The one thing that I always question, and Justin, I know we talked about this some in the past, is he does seem to complain a lot. I don't think there's anybody that's going to argue that. When you listen to the man in a post-game conference, he seems to complain about officials, make excuses as to why his team loses when they lose. That's one thing that I have a hard time understanding as a leader of young men. I struggle with that because if he's making excuses as a leader and as a coach of that team, what's going to happen when those players make a mistake on the court? They can easily go around and make an excuse too. That's the only critical thing I think I have to say about Tom Izzo, but he's done a fantastic job at Michigan State. Great coach, definitely a Hall of Fame caliber coach. So a lot of good he's done there, but definitely probably less than 5 years left in his coaching career, in my opinion. Justin, your thoughts?
Well, you guys hit on a lot of the same points here. I mean, I agree, guys. He's a Hall of Fame coach. I mean, I don't think any of us would debate that. I think also what it shows us is how hard it is to win the championship. You'd think someone who's been there 8 times would get to the championship game, more than twice. But it's just not that easy. And, he's on a very short list of great coaches. I think Roy Williams, Coach K, guys that are kind of in his same era, Jay Wright, thinking guys that have been there, have won it. He's on the list for sure, but he's not at the top of that list. I do think it's interesting. The last time he won the championship, I believe that was also the last time the Big Ten team won a championship, if I'm not mistaken. So I think that's kind of factors into how some people view him, since he's the last Big Ten head coach to win a championship. Al, you and I have talked, off camera many times about the excuse making, and you're being pretty nice about it, but it's like clockwork, man. After every single game, this guy has some kind of excuse to make. So I found a couple of them, just kind of more recent. So on February 28th, they had just played, I think, 3 games in like maybe 6 or 7 days, and they lost to Maryland 73-55. And his quote after the game was, the reality is we were in 2 tough games, and it took something out of these guys. So, usually you hear a coach kind of give praise to the other team, say, hey, they beat, especially when you lose a game by 18 points to Maryland. But, he kind of makes an excuse for his players. Then later, the Michigan State lost to Maryland in the Big Ten tournament, and he's on camera getting interviewed. And as the referees are kind of walking by him, he kind of gets a little louder, and he says, in the second half, free throws are about 16-3. That's ridiculous. And then again, just this week after, just getting the play-in game, he says, it seems like some teams got a tremendous benefit from not playing games because of COVID. So listen, the guy's a great coach. None of us are debating that, but holy cow, this guy has an excuse every time his team loses a game. And Al, like you said, that just transcends down to the players. They pick up on it, they buy into that, and take some ownership. Give credit where it's due to the other team. But he doesn't seem to do that. So I have a big beef with that. I think it's gotten worse as he's gotten older. He's a great coach, but I think Michigan State would be wise to start thinking about a succession plan for Tom Izzo.
I agree with you, Justin. So fantastic coach. I think we all agree on that. Fantastic coach. Nobody's taking that away. But one question that I started thinking of right here, Justin, Zach, you take away some of the excuses that he's made over and over and over again over the years, makes you wonder, could he have potentially had another championship under his belt? Could he have been to the finals more if he didn't make excuses for his guys? I don't know. But regardless, he is a fantastic coach. He's one of the all-time greats, so nobody's taking that away from him at all. We'll shift sports a little bit, guys. We'll move over into football. The big news from the football world. No, nothing to do with Tom Brady right now. Drew Brees. We're talking Drew Brees. He announced his retirement the other day. What's he meant to the NFL? Your thoughts on his career overall? Justin, we'll start with you.
Well, first of all, man, the guy is a legend. Just like we were talking about Izzo. Drew Brees is a legend as well. He's a surefire Hall of Fame guy. Al, it's funny you mentioned Tom Brady. Brees and Brady are 1-2 in career passing yards, and right now, as Brees retires, he's number 1 in career passing yards. So, statistically, you can go down the record book and look, and he's right up there in a ton of statistical categories. What I think about when I think of Drew Brees, number one, I remember watching him at Purdue. Just kind of growing up, Purdue was never a good football team. It was always an easy win on the schedule, and when Brees was there, he was good, man. He was a little guy, but he could just sling the ball all over the field. And then he got drafted by the Chargers, and he did pretty good for San Diego. I don't know if you guys remember this, but I think his rookie contract, it comes up in San Diego, and he had hurt his elbow or his shoulder or something, in that contract year. And so there was a lot of debate, do the Chargers re-sign Brees or do they let him walk? Not sure about his long-term health. And, they let him walk. New Orleans signs him. And then I think just his defining moments in New Orleans, what I'll always think about, after Katrina, the Saints, getting the Super Bowl and winning the Super Bowl, who dat and just all the excitement, in New Orleans around that time. That was something really neat. And I think he was someone that the city really rallied around. So Drew Brees, Hall of Fame quarterback, great player. Never be better than Tom Brady, of course, but very good in his own right. Zach, what do you think?
So I think nobody can deny his play on the field. The guy, he performed, always fun to watch. I think it's funny that, a lot of people say he's given short quarterbacks new life in this NFL. He's listed at 6 foot. So kids out there, if you're 6 foot, you can be quarterback in the NFL. Drew Brees is giving you a chance. So you got your Kyler Murrays and things like that. Now teams are taking chances on 6-foot quarterbacks. So it's kind of interesting. It's nice to see that, that 6'6", 6'4" QB isn't something that every team needs. Talent could be in a 6-foot frame, but the off the field contributions Drew Brees has made to the NFL, his community after Hurricane Katrina. The guy continues to raise money and make a difference in people's lives. When we talk about sports, we talk a lot about statistics. We talk about championships. We talk about winners. But the greats are great off the field too. They make impacts outside of the sport they play. They make impacts in the communities, in kids' lives, and they give hope to others. And I think Drew Brees has done that, not just in New Orleans, I think worldwide. And we talk about great leaders. I think he's one of the greats. He leads by example. He doesn't seem to be a huge voice, but a voice, and he makes an impact by the things he does. So I think not only a Hall of Famer, on the football field, but I think one of the great characters in all of sports. And when the Saints played the Buccaneers, and at the end of the game, Brady throws a pass to one of his kids. I mean, that was a pretty cool moment. Everybody kind of had an idea that maybe that was Brees's last, time on the field, and it was a nice moment for a couple of greats, and the mutual respect they had. And one day we'll be talking about Tom Brady in the same way, leaving the football field for the last time. Might be 5 or 6 more years, but to that, I think Drew Brees is one of the greats, not just on the field, but in all of sports as a character, as a human being. So that's my opinion of Drew Brees. Al, I know he doesn't rank as high as Tom Brady for you, but he's got to be close, right?
Yeah, he's definitely up there. Zach, you mentioned a couple interesting things. First of all, I think, you said Tom Brady playing another 5 or 6 years. I think he's going to go into 60s. So we still got a little bit of time left for Tom. But yeah, Drew Brees, Zach, you said a lot of good points there. What he's done off the field, I think, is phenomenal too. So we'll start with that, and what he meant to, New Orleans when they were going through everything with Hurricane Katrina back in the day when that was happening. And, he's been a staple in that community. We see him out and about throughout the country all the time too. I think him and his family have meant a lot to a lot of other people. And I think that he is a strong character guy, a great leader, a very humble person. Justin, you mentioned watching him at Purdue. I think that brings me back to my childhood days. So, when Drew Brees is retiring here now, we know we got Ben Roethlisberger, maybe with another year left. Tom Brady, I hope he plays till he's 60, so I can still say that there's somebody I watched as a child play football. But, I remember watching him at Purdue, and one game that sticks out is that game, I don't remember the year, but against Ohio State, where he made that comeback and they beat Ohio State. And, he was a lot of fun to watch at Purdue. And throughout the years, the last 2 decades, he's meant a lot to the NFL. He's definitely a Hall of Fame guy. Class act. He's going to be missed in the NFL world. That's for sure. But he's certainly done a lot of special things over the years. It was nice to see him get 1 Super Bowl. Wish he could have won, more than one, but unfortunately, the only one that can win multiple ones a lot is Tom Brady. So, but he's done a lot. Drew Brees has been great for the NFL, and a class act that'll certainly be missed. So. It's been fun to watch him over the years. But anyway, that wraps it up for our Hot Topic Tuesday. So we thank everybody for tuning in. Thank you, Justin, for taking time and joining us. We hope that you continue to watch us and continue to tune in next Tuesday for another edition of Hot Topic Tuesday. Thank you.